Hey guys, so I was out here on the side of my property looking for some wild edibles today. And I had a knife with me and I thought you guys might want to see it and be interested in it. It's another Bark River. And it happens to be the Little Carver is the name of it. This is a first production run. I didn't order a first production, it just happened to come that way. This steel is CPM 3V. This knife has the same handle design and shape as the Little Creek, which I previously reviewed way back. It's a crappy video that was shot on a like an iPhone or something like that. So with all that being said, the Little Creek is still one of my favorite knives of all time, EDC knives. I really love the handle shape, which when I saw this come out made me really want to get one. This knife, having a little bit different blade profile, you wouldn't think it'd be that big of a deal, but they really do perform quite differently. The Little Creek is a great skinner. It's a great just all-around camp knife, prep knife, that type of thing, EDC knife. However, I've found when doing carving skills, this knife is superior due to the blade profile, pretty much is the only difference. This one I don't think would be that great at skinning just because of how sharp this tip is. There's no real belly to the knife. This is the back of the knife. It's almost like turned around compared to another knife. But I really like this knife. It does have the natural micarta handles. And it comes with this sheath, which I've covered up with some paracord. But works just fine. The only thing I have bad to say about this entire video in this knife is the sheath. You would think that the knife would go down in here. However, I'm finding that the welt on this back part is too thick, so it's pushing my knife into like right here. Just one thing to know. So this knife being very small, you know, lends itself to being a really good EDC knife, which is what I use it for. I carry it around my neck a lot, put it in a pocket, something like that. But you can still do work with it, since it is the Little Carver. Now I just have this piece of wood right here just so I don't damage anything. And we will go ahead and do a little bit of batoning, something you normally wouldn't think that you could do. I mean, this is not going to be by any means the ideal batoning knife or anything like that. But if you're like me and you go out with just one knife sometimes, you're not really carrying much else, and you needed to get a fire going, you really easily could. No problems at all. So it's called the Little Carver, which would lead you to believe that it can carve well. So let's just see how that goes. We'll say out of all the Bark Rivers I've ever had, and I've had quite a few, this one definitely came the sharpest to me out of the box. Normally for them to be crazy hair-popping sharp, like scary sharp, I have to spend a little bit of time stropping. This one actually came about as sharp as I can get them, which normally tends to be a little bit sharper than any factory knife, not just a Bark River, just because I spend the extra time on it. Don't know if you can see that, but this is a fantastic carver. Makes some of the easiest feather sticks of any knife I've ever used, especially for its size. So, yes, it does carve very well. No issues at all whatsoever. Now I'm going to go ahead here and just carve a really bare bones quick tent steak, just because it's kind of almost like wearing it in the ground right now, saying this thing can carve. It's obvious. It's extremely comfortable in hand for how small it is. You know, you're not getting a full grip. This is a 3-finger knife on me, and I do have large hands. But like I said, this blade geometry and profile really works well when carving. It's just the angle just does such a good job. You can do a chest lever grip as well. Take chunks off, whatever you want to do. So, works really well. Obviously it's going to carve. So the next thing I can see myself doing with this knife, being it more of like an EDC type knife, a small knife, a neck knife, something like that, that you're always going to want to have on you, is creating a fire. Now, the spine on this one is quite sharp, as most are. Let's see how well we can process some material down. The back of here has a little bit of tulip poplar bark. Let's take our knife, be real careful, slide it up in there, pop the bark up. That's where that very, very fine point comes in handy, being able to slide up in there and pop the bark loose. So I'm just showing here with natural materials. You can take this knife and a ferro rod and get a fire going. And these are kind of marginal materials at that. This is kind of wet, a little bit damp. It's pretty humid out here today. The southeast tends to stay pretty humid. So I switched cameras here so I could get up nice and close. I hope you can still hear me all right. I'm going to process this down. Like I was saying, this is a marginal bird's nest at that. So now we have our material. Like I was saying, the spine on this knife works just fine. This is a very little kind of EDC size ferro rod. And there you go. You're off to the races with your shavings. And that's what something like this little knife offers you, is the ability to go very, very lightweight but still have a very capable package. You know, these two items right here are very small, very lightweight, very easy to carry, but in almost any environment during any time of year, I'm almost guaranteed a fire with these. Especially if I have something like a little saw just to kind of make some smaller materials, then it's 100%. The only downfall to having something this small is you can't really fell a tree or something like that. But around here, most of the time I can find a dead standing limb, break it up, split it down into some smaller pieces like I've shown you today, and get a fire going. No problem at all. Hey guys, so I just wanted to run out here real quick, finish up the review on this awesome little Bark River Little Carver. But this knife is hands down my go-to small fixed blade knife now. This is the size of EDC knife for me. That North Star EDC is more of like a companion day knife for me. I love this Warrenclyffe type blade profile. Fantastic. Creates the best feather sticks in my opinion from what I found. Blades with this type of geometry. This little creek handle, fantastic. I love the little creek for the handle. Fits perfect for 3 fingers in my large to extra large hands. It performs very, very well. The stock on this knife is very, very thick, which I find to be very, very important for something this small, to give it some rigidity and just some overall heft to it. As you saw in the video, I was doing some batoning. That people would say you shouldn't even do with a Mora knife, but go figure. But it's completely thick and you're not going to break it or anything like that. Like I said, if you're going to be doing a lot of game processing, something like that, I probably wouldn't recommend this knife to you. But that's just because of that very, very fine point, which is great for detailed carving traps. I did carve a deadfall figure 4, and it did great. It did just fine. However, I did try to cut up a little bit of meat, like as if I was processing game, and this kind of digs in a little bit much. So just kind of keep that in mind if you can. I'm gonna get up real close right here and show you just how aesthetically pleasing this knife is to me. And I've already been complimented on it. I've carried it in town, which is legal in my state, if you're wondering. I've already been complimented by some of my fellow archery buddies, and everyone's just like, oh, that's an awesome looking little knife, what is it? And I tell them, and they're like, oh sweet, like that must cost a couple $100 bucks. And I tell them, no, This is a very, very high-end steel, and some people don't understand that. But like I said, I think I paid $119 from Knife Ship Free. They have all kinds of different handle materials. I just really like this color, and the CPM 3V steel, in my opinion, is hands down the ideal steel for me right now for what I'm doing. It does stay pretty humid in my area, and this steel is nice and hard, so while it takes longer to get it hair popping sharp, for example 1095, couple minutes, 01, 5 or 6 minutes of stropping, this is about 12 minutes, which isn't, I don't mind that at all, but it retains it much, much longer than 01 or 1095. And I've just seen some people have a little bit of trouble with this. I use sandpaper and then strop. With my other steels, I normally start at about 800, go to 1,000 and then strop. Sometimes 2,000 if I'm just have time and I feel like it. This I'm starting at about 400 on the CPM 3V. I have this in this knife, my ultralight bushcrafter, and my North Star EDC. That's the Bark Rivers I have that are currently in CPM 3V. Okay guys, so here's the knife up close just so you guys can admire how well these knives are built. As you can tell, I'm starting to get kind of an indentation right here, and that's right where the tip of my knife is going. Right there, you can kind of see it. To me, I think it should be able to go down here just a little bit more. That may be the way it's designed, I'm not sure. But to me, there's a very thick welt right in here, and it's kind of pushing the tip of my knife right into that rivet. I haven't had a problem with the steel hitting the rivet or anything like that. Just, it's a little weird, and I feel like it should go in a little bit further. So let me know in the comments if you guys have had that same issue. The knife itself is aesthetically pleasing in my opinion. I really like this profile and how straight this edge is right up here. Fantastic for carving. Some of the best feather sticks you'll ever get come from this knife in my experience. And I really enjoy this handle profile. It's perfect for a 3-finger grip. It's just absolutely perfect in my large to extra large hands, depending on what glove. As I was saying, the steel in this knife is pretty thick for as small as it is, but I really like that in a smaller knife like that. So here's an up close. As you can see that edge, I have stropped it just to keep that hair popping edge. Bark River CPM 3V. If you haven't tried this steel, I highly recommend it. There's some of that really nice natural micarta. I really like this color micarta, as it has a few different hues of brown in it, and I just like that a lot. I have the antique bone linen in the North Star EDC, and it comes across a little yellow to me in person. Online it looks pretty dark brownish, but in person to me it comes across a little more yellow. So as you can tell in the handle, it has a little bit of a drop there to keep your finger from sliding forward onto the edge, which I find quite useful in a knife this size. I highly recommend it. It's taking the place of my Little Creek and all my other smaller fixed blade EDC knives. This one will be on my belt for quite some time to come.